In your words, how excited are you to be in this role?
Yeah, like over the moon. For me to be like with the other GMs, Lisa, Kat, like I've played with them growing up, through pro ball, national team, and now we're this many years later in our professional careers, and to be able to circle back and step into a different entity, to step into a GM role, a business role. Like I've been out of the team coaching for a while, but I've owned my own business and run my own business. So being able to like take the softball professional coaching and the business element and put them together and get to hang out with some friends and talk the game. I mean, does it get any better than that? I don't think it really does.
Dan, I know when I asked you, what's your why? What sold you on AU? It was Kim Ng. Tell me why.
I have followed Kim Ng's career for a while now. I'm a huge baseball fan, always have been since I was young, and have gotten more into understanding the front offices of baseball, like the executives, and just curiosity. I have some people I went to Stanford with who have gone into front offices in baseball, having played baseball there, and kind of seeing their journey, and then just kind of following how it happens. And then, knew a little bit about Kim, and then as she, kind of came on the scene with her job interviews for GM positions, and when she finally got the job, I mean, to have a female in that role, I mean, it's never been done. So to watch her and then watch what the Marlins did in the 2 years she had them and turn them around, like I was fascinated by her. So for me, that was a selling point from day one. And then, we have always, those of us that have played the pro league, have always felt probably a little bit of like a loss inside, that we could not get it to stick, and it didn't sustain, and it didn't build, and we've all been in different versions of it. So to be able to come back on this side and use my experience professionally in the professional sector, not as just a player, but in the business sector and doing what we do in softball, and try to add that element now to what our experience was as a player, I mean, that was a done deal. So we want this league to be a long-standing, growing league, and we could be founding members of that is like unbelievable.
Yeah. Alisa, you were the 2011 Rookie of the Year. What does it take, fresh out of college, to make an immediate adjustment to the pro level like that, to earn that honor?
Yeah, I would credit, I came from a program that really taught us. We weren't robots. We didn't just show up every day. We had a coach that wanted us to be coaches on the field. And I talk about this in my interview with Kim, like, you do have to have that when you make that jump, because you're not always getting the same kind of preparation. They don't always have the same tech, or even as simple as like having machines that you maybe worked on your entire time when you were in college. You've got to be able to think for yourself and make adjustments. And I don't believe that I would have had the same career, let alone been Rookie of the Year, had I not played for Lou Harris Champer at Georgia and come in. And I think that anyone that comes into a league like this has to be hard-nosed, and they have to be okay dealing with failure, and they need to be able to trust their ability.
Dana, I know now in your role, you work a ton in analytics, statistics, and data, and you influence the college game in that way. But how do you think equipping pro players with that kind of information can push the game forward, especially in a GM role?
Absolutely. Like, I think it brings sophistication to the game, because it brings a plan. It brings, I mean, the talent is everybody is talented in this league. So you cannot just show up today and have your best A game and assume that that's going to work. You have to have a plan, and that's where data and analytics come in, is putting our players in a position to maximize their success, because we have looked at their strengths and weaknesses, whether it's their barrel path, whether it's their pitch shape, and how does that play with the other side, right? And so if we can maximize their success at all times, we minimize our failures, and we give our athletes that feeling of being confident on the field. And sometimes in this sport, it's such a one-on-one game, right? It's a one-on-one game disguised in a team game. So it can't just be go up and see ball, hit ball. Like, the pitchers are too good. It can't just be, pitchers just go ahead and throw your pitch in the outside corner and you're going to beat the hitter. Like, teaching this next level, like how you beat the talent on the other side. And when do you say, was that my fault? Was that a bad matchup? Was that a bad pitch execution, a bad swing? Or, like, where does that fall in? So giving them more information to guide their journey and process as you have to grow with the competition, right? Like, this is the most talented group of athletes playing together. So everybody needs an edge, right? So I'm excited to bring that to the table, something that we've been bringing to colleges for the last few years. And a lot of these players I don't know if had access to it. You know, if they're a few years out from college, you know, they haven't, so it's going to be fun to kind of teach them and introduce some new concepts.
As a GM, as a pair, you get to create the Blaze, especially year one with the allocation draft. Dana, for you, thinking with the GM's mind now, which you're getting used to thinking that way, what do you as a franchise player? Who is a must-have if you're making a pick?
I think that can go multiple levels, right? Like, you want the top talent, no doubt. Like, it'd be silly to say we didn't want the top talent, but you need those players that are glue pieces, right? That maybe statistically speaking aren't, you know, in the top third, right? But they are the players that keep the team together. They are. They're the voice, you know, in the clubhouse. They're the energy in the dugout, right? A lot of times on a team, it's not the best player that everybody looks to. It's the voice that carries the most weight, and the player that shows up every day, puts their work in, right, is a team player. So I think it's kind of layering those things and creating, you know, a diverse team that has very different assets from player to player, from pitcher to pitcher, from hitter to hitter. So we all have different ways to lean in, and we're not just cookie cutter carbon copies of one another. And then I think it's our job collectively to build that culture from within and for the players to see the value in each other.
Alisa, what comes to mind for you as the type of player that you build a team around?
They need to be the best teammate first and foremost, especially having a small roster like this, and it is a grind. I mean, like, you're playing the same people in 3-game series, you're playing 5 games in a week, I think, to start. We just talked about, like,
On a tour, you're on
yeah,
the road.
yeah, you're on the road, which we all know, like, it can wear on you a little bit. I think that whole person first mentality is important. The talent's going to be there. We know that, and we could all of the coaches and GMs could sit and rattle off names that we know are really talented, like, but I think it has to be the right fit for your coaching style and your management style as well. But I mean, I think most of us would say that the best people that the best players that we were with were people that we knew had our back and vice versa, and I think that still rings true.
You have an established program at Western Illinois University. You've coached within the national team program. How would you describe yourself as a coach? What's your philosophy?
My gosh, I think if you asked my Western players, they'd probably answer different than. I think at the end of the day, it's like, I'm adaptable. I think every team's DNA is going to require something different from you. What I would say would ring true, that will still ring true in the pro, like, the ability to have honest conversations with people. You have to have that. We have to have conversations with players that are going to come up that could be tough conversations, and I can't back away from that, right? I don't think she wants me to do that either. But I would hope that, you know, like, when my players talk about me, they talk about that I care about them as people. I'm always checking in on how they're doing. I'm a big mental health advocate, and I'm a servant leader, right? That's my job as a coach. So I would be hopeful that would be the same thing that would be happening this summer.
What comes to mind is one of your most fulfilling moments as a coach?
Oof. You know, I think we always remember, like, our first commit and this and that, but I think it has been, of late, transitioning from the fun-loving assistant coach to becoming the head coach that makes you sit in the chair and have those harder convos. But it's when I have players come in and they are open with me because they know that they can trust me to not hold it against them or you know, react irrationally. That tells me that I'm doing something right.
You've both played at a high level. When you think about what you didn't have, well, let me rephrase that. You've both played at a high level. What do you want to give these pros that maybe you didn't have?
Yeah, I mean, this game has changed so much since I played. You know, giving them access to more information. We did not have access to information. We were lucky enough to have statistics. That was it, right? Like, we have all this technology, but can we give you access to information that matters, that's usable, that's digestible, that's communicatable? That's not a word, but you can communicate with your coach about it. And how do I grow my game from the information? Like, that's how we progress the game forward, right? Technology is always going to be, like, passing us, right? It's going faster and faster and faster. And so it's our job to bring the human element to it and kind of find how we can marry those two ways. I know, you know, I think back as a player, and if I had some of the resources now, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have thrown this pitch, or I would have, you know, exposed this part of, you know, pitching to hitters. And, you know, we were kind of looking back, flying blind. So I want to give sight to our athletes.
Ooh, I love that.
That was that Stanford degree that just. I think my answer would be just a little different because when I think about my time in the pro league, and I played for 4 different franchises, lots of different coaches. Mine would be like the areas that I felt maybe were lacking throughout my experience, where at times the consistency of like having coaches that were like all in and really believed in the product, and that's our job. I feel very passionately about that. I don't believe that we should be having people involved in this that aren't all in. We talked about it last night too. Like you heard everybody say that. Yeah. I think there's that, and I think like the professionalism side to it. We want this league to grow and succeed, and it needs to be treated exactly like that. And there's no gray area, right? Like let's treat it the way we want, like our counterparts do, that we keep talking about as the business models that we look at that have success. And so I want to be able to do that and then still be able to be on the field and communicate to our players what they're doing great, what we need to work on, all of that. And I believe that we can all do that.
Dana, you've told me you love baseball, you're a Padres fan. If there's one thing that you could wish for in the Blaze fan base to either feel or be or exude, what would it be?
So as a longtime Padre fan, it has been a struggle at times. We're still waiting for our first World Series. That commitment, right? I want our fans to be devoted to our team, regardless of the seasons. Like I will tune into a Padres. They could be, 30 and 132, and I'm still going to watch the game, right? I'm still going to have hope in them, right? I want our fans to be on the edge of their seat in the playoff run, like, standing up during the 10th innings, like that, because that's what's fun about sports, right? Is that passion that comes out, when the pressure is on, when the championship is on. And so building that culture, like I want them to be all in all the time, and they are dedicated to our city, our team, our roster, right? Like I am every year. I want them to be tuning in, to find out who we're drafting each year and, what that player's background is just like constant consumers of the Blaze.
I'll say it again. I think I will tell you right now, player-wise, to get them to a place where they don't have to worry about a second job would be huge, where they're able to train, to go all in on the recovery, the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, all the different things that we did not have that I know she's alluding to also, even though she didn't specifically say that, all of that. I mean, I read something about how, I think it's Derrick Henry spends $240,000 a year on his body. Like, incredible, right? I don't think anyone is able to do that with softball right now, but relatively, like, that'd be amazing, And that doesn't mean that they wouldn't coach if they didn't want to, but there's a difference between needing to do it to survive and finding your time to train and all of that. I don't know if that's a year, but I do believe that that will be coming up soon when we look at the business model and what we've kind of been presented. But I think the other piece is I think we just want to see people really excited and bought in and viewing the games and showing up to the games with the gear on. It doesn't take very much. It just takes a little bit to get rolling. So these players are they need to have a home that they can go to and play after college and not just have to build their brand by having random NIL deals.
Yeah. Dana, what do you hope people are saying about the AUSL 1 year from today?
I hope we have a better brand awareness in not just the softball population, but across, all genders, all ages. Like people are having awareness of what that logo is and what it means. Maybe they're not a fan of our team, but they know it, right? And I want young girls to grow up saying, I want to be a professional softball player. I grew up saying I wanted to play in the Olympics, right? That was our top tier, right? But what if little girls, who started playing softball said, I want to be a professional softball player because it's a legitimate thing that exists.
Yeah, I want to play for the Blaze.
Exactly, I want to play for the Blaze. And not that everybody's going to get to, because we know it's a very difficult thing too, but just young female athletes growing up with the goal of playing a sport as a profession and not just playing a sport as a hobby. Right? How cool would that be? Like I grew up watching baseball, I knew I couldn't be Tony Gwynn, right? I knew it, I wanted to, but like they could grow up knowing, they could be, Megan Framo, or they could be, any one of the players that'll be in our league. That to me would be really cool.
I love that. That was incredible. Thank you both.
Go Blaze.
Go Blaze. And on that, go Blaze.